everybody, happy Friday. This is Overpass Live. I'm Eric. I make apps. This is the weekly live stream where we talk about whatever we want to talk about. It's just where we hang out. Don't really do a lot of preparation. It's just sort of chat. So, somebody gave me a comment this week saying, I suggest that you come up with a topic for your live streams because whatever. And one of the reasons why I haven't done that is because a lot of times the live streams, we never know which way it's going to go. We know we're going to talk about whatever, 80s television. We're going to talk about, look at other people's apps. We're going to talk about whatever's new. And this week, of course, the big news this week is about Apple. The announcement of Apple cutting their commission rate, which is like really good news. I did a video about that. Was it yesterday? And it was really, really great news. I have this. Okay. So one of the weird things I have before I share my screen, and I always forget this. I have Zoom calls and I forget that I have this on. I have this subliminal thing where it flashes up messages to you, which is kind of weird and kind of creepy, but it's kind of one of those things I installed ages ago. Anyway, so remember turn that stuff off. So anyway, so what do we got here? We've got, let's see. Hey Eric, Fist 007, what's up? What's up? Yesterday was the last episode of the Supernatural TV show. I've never seen that. I've never even heard of it. It's the end of an era. The end. Anyway, how was your week? My week was good. Yeah, this is I've been working, but I've also I've started to focus a lot more on getting a little bit more time to work on Overpass stuff, which is good. It's good just to start on Overpass. Last week was basically, we've been trying to revamp the website, but I've also trying to move it to a new server host, which is something I should be able to give to somebody else. But because I've spent so much time setting up the different components to it, that if I did give it to somebody else, it would take them, it might take them weeks, where it should just be like a simple thing. As well, one of the things when you work on anything on your own, whether it's like server setup or like your own code, handing it over to somebody else, it should be easy, but at some point you just stop documenting everything as you go. Now with your code, you should document it as you go anyway, just in case. And it's easier said than done, right? There's a lot of code that I have that, like, if I did hand it over to somebody, I'd have to make sure it was, maybe I'll just have a quick glance through it, make sure it makes sense, But like when it comes to like setting up like a WordPress server, like that's something that I don't really even think about. You install plugin after plugin after plugin, or WordPress installation, and then after a while you kind of forgot all that. So that's what I've been doing. I hope you guys can hear me okay. Bart Rock, happy Friday, everyone. Anyone else have a battle stories dealing with appealing rejections on the App Store? Yeah. Hey, Bart, I really appreciate your email yesterday. It really made me feel a lot better. It was like, I think it was you were the first person I thought of when I thought of that 15% because of our conversations before. I've had my biggest thing, and the reason I haven't posted anything of my own to the App Store for a while was because of 4.3 stuff. Right? I completely just I just threw my toys out of the pram and decided I'm just gonna like focus on the Google Play side and I really need to get through and just, so I have all these language learning applications and they should all be consolidated into one application. And the reason I didn't want to do it was for ASO reasons, right? Because I would have one keyword, one whatever. And, and I know that from a technical point of view, it should be simple to do, but even that little technical part of thing, I haven't even done yet. I kind of start working on it and I have this very bad habit. It's because it's, again, it's one of those things where I could hire somebody else to do it, but they'll have to go look through all the old code, and I think I could do it faster, but then I just never get around to doing it. So I think it's the kind of thing where I do need to hire somebody to do that part. But I need to find a Corona Solar 2D developer, which would be not the easiest thing. So from a technical point of view, it should be very simple, but it's just that one bit that I haven't done. But I do need to definitely do that part, especially after talking to you about that stuff. So. So anyway, it was a 5.3. The 4.3 guidelines, which is the spamming thing, where they said you got too many apps, you need to consolidate them into one application, which kind of makes sense in some situations, but like in my situation, I thought it was unfair, and it was like they say my apps are too similar to each other, even though they had completely different audiences, right? I think that's probably to me, it's like it shouldn't be how similar the apps are to each other. It should be like who it's intended for. So if you had an app that was really good for one group of people and you wrote something with slightly different functionality for a different group of people, it shouldn't have to be one application because all of a sudden you're thinking about, I mean, because how your app appeals to the demographic is really important, like in terms of design and everything else. It's not just the technical side of things, but that was the only time I did it. Most of the time, I just I've gotten rejected by Apple so many times. I mean, even now with client stuff, we get the Apple rejection go through. You just have to resubmit it, do it again. But Zero Supremacy, hello, hey, how's it going? UK Bass, sup, Eric, sup, UK Bass, what's up? Marco Soares, how's your week? It was good. It was a good week. It was very, so like doing a bit of client stuff, working on some of my own stuff this week. None of my own apps, but like sort of the other stuff, the website and everything else. Just everything kind of gone into disrepair. I've kind of gone on this binge watching of This Is Us, which is like I'd never seen it before. And that was, we're in lockdown again. I mean, we have been for 2 weeks now, and we got another 2 weeks. But I mean, that's no excuse. It's definitely no excuse because it's not like before where it felt like, we didn't know it was going to end. We kind of know when this one's going to end, but all I've been doing is I've been coding, client stuff, working on some Overpass stuff, watching This Is Us. Again, that doesn't even fit in. I'm not proud of that. It's just like, it's just that it's been my nightly routine lately. And then also working out. So working out and going for runs and stuff like that this week. But it's been a pretty good week. Ahmed, hey, how are you? I'm good. How are you? Let's see. Ron Deere. Hello. First of all, is it a WordPress website or a custom one? It's WordPress. Yeah, I mean it's the thing is I'm not a big WordPress fan, and I know lots of people who really hate WordPress, but there's very little that is in competition. I remember when at least that I'm aware of. I mean, WordPress has that huge community of plugins and everything like that. I know that when Node.js came out, they had the Ghost framework, or was it Ghost? It was something, and they had something, but I was kind of hoping that something new, especially something that was not PHP based, would come out. But yeah, I still have the WordPress thing. So what we started doing was trying to move it from like one. We just thought we'd start a whole installation and move everything over. And the reason I'm kind of like, and so my designer's working on that, but my whole thing is we have so much SEO. We have so much that comes in, like our page rank on like loads of different stuff. We have like thousands of pages there. And I don't necessarily want to lose that by moving everything over to a new server. I have friends that are business owners, and they're like, I'll go to their website and I'll say, oh, your website's down. And they'll be like, oh yeah, it's it's been down for like a week. I'm waiting for my designer to get to it, or my web guy to get to it and fix it. I'm like, but your SEO ranking, you can't just leave it like, 404 for like 2 weeks. So, and I'm kind of the same way. I don't want to lose any of the rankings that we have. But yeah. So Moran Deere says, Eric, do I have to show my home address on the app download page? I'm not a business, just a solo dev. When I'm trying to make a payment profile, it asks me for the public merchant profile, for an address or public merchant profile. I don't think you do. I've always had a business address, or like a virtual address, a virtual office type thing. Right? I'm the same as you. I would never put my mobile number down or my home address down, because it's just weird. Even on my website, I've never put my home address on. It just feels like, and my phone number always has to be an 0845 number. It's never my mobile number, so I can switch off if I need to. There's one point, when you have Chrome that autofills the like if you fill out a form and Chrome will autofill those forms. I was doing my I got a domain a couple years ago, which I never ended up using, but like when I was doing the Who Is stuff, it pre-populated everything, so I just went, okay, submit, whatever, and it put my mobile number instead of the Overpass number in there. And I kept getting all these calls from overseas web companies saying, oh, you don't have a website for this domain, we can do your website for you and everything like that. It drove me crazy. It was just, the cold calls and everything. But yeah, I totally get you. I mean, for me, um, I mean, is it actually shown? Let me. If you make a purchase, I suppose it has to be on the invoice, doesn't it, or on the receipt that they get? But I wouldn't. I mean, if you could get a virtual address, get a virtual address. I don't know if it's required or not. I can't remember. It's been so long since I set that up. Fistable says, don't you think that a complete rewrite of your old games would be more beneficial? Use or hire someone to use Unity and have it on a maintainable, up-to-date technology? I suppose so. It is, but it is a yeah. But you know what? That might be something to consider. I mean, Unity is. I'd have to find a good Unity developer. One of the things with the Corona was making it that was flexible. Um, okay, so here's what's kind of put me off Unity, and it has nothing to do with the technology. It's a developer that's worked on a Unity project for me. Is that he named all the stuff like the name, like he named. So it was a project we did for a client, and we want to reskin it for another client. But of course, he named all the forms and everything based on the client. So it should have been something that was very fluid, like modular, and it wasn't. It was very static. So that if we brought in another client, they would have to like rename all that stuff and redo everything. And it's just like I don't like having that dependency on somebody. But yeah, you're right. You know, again, I think it's because I don't know Unity that well yet. Even though I'm a C# guy. Chord Funk, yo Eric, yo Chord Funk. Random question: do you have any rules you always keep while coding? Keep in mind while coding. Well, yeah, I mean, but there's it's pretty standard stuff like one class. Okay, yeah. So it depends on the language, but yes, like one class per file. If I I'm working on this Flutter project. Again, I've been working on this for ages. I took it over from another developer, and I think if I have the same control like more than 4 times, or whatever, then that should be a template. Like that should be extracted out into a control. It's not like copy, 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 which is what this guy did. And we have a form that has like over like 30 text boxes on it, right? And it's all text box inside a padding, inside a text box inside an inkwell for no reason. Inkwell for no reason at all. None. Right? I can't see it. There's no tap event. There's no nothing. But it's like, for some reason that's the way he did it. Inside a flexible, inside an expanded, inside a row, inside a padding. Right? And so this huge for like one text field with a label. So with the label and the text box, huge amount of code, 50 times, right? And it was just like the file is huge. When I saw that, I was just like, oh my god. So that's like the kind of thing. Like if you have that kind of logic and all that kind of stuff, that should be one control, which you have one line of code, which you're just calling that function again and again. It's modularizing things like that, which is like standard, right? Also, I don't like, I always move my data access my data access control into one class, which is again a kind of thing that when I took this project over wasn't done. So like every single page had, it would require the data and it would save the data. 2 different functions, pretty much the same logic, calling the same API, calling the same thing again and again and again all over the place. And for me, it was always be that most of the time what I would do is I'd make that as like a base class, as an abstract class, depending on the language. If it supports abstract classes, that would be my data access, and then all my other classes would inherit from that one. That way, when I make the API call, it all goes through one central function. So if I need to add any logging at the API level, I can. If I need to mock it up to go to a different backend, I can. Like that's, so having all the data access in one place, that's definitely a rule. And then having models, using models is something that definitely have to use too. So there's a really good so we have like we're accessing an API that delivers JSON, right? And it's like your standard type of thing, but there's like lots of generators out there. We could paste that JSON into a JSON to Dart converter, and it will create the Dart class for you. and then you could just use that as a model in there, have your data accessor. So a lot of that stuff, I know I'm just sort of rambling on, but these are the kind of things that are always in there. It's just like that clean. To me, it makes sense to do it that way. And somebody who's never done that before, they come in and they're like, but it just works. And sometimes it's hard when you haven't seen things laid out that way to see how important it is. It makes it more testable. It makes it more more flexible. And just being able to overload. Again, depending on the language, sometimes you can overload those classes. So let's say if I have one data access component, which makes actually usually it's one data access class where I have a get, just like a function which does the HTTP request for get, and one for a post, so that it just takes in different parameters, and then depends on what else I want to do. So sometimes, there's some times where I'm working with a client and we want to make sure that we're using the right API. So I might pass in the version number as a query string parameter onto the end of it, something like that. That way they can verify if everyone's coming on the right one, and then we can send back a certain HTTP. I'm just blabbering on, but there's lots of things. Yes. I don't. Sorry. I could go off on one thing. Fist 007. Oh, is it true that the UK, the government is planning on doing a global vaccination through the military? Yeah, I think the U.S. is doing that too, though, aren't they? I think I saw in the U.S. news, the UK government is doing a global vaccination. I don't know if they're doing a global vaccination. I think it's just be the UK. But Ravi Sharma says, I only developed Android already 4 years and have over 2 million downloads. Compare Android. How difficult is iOS development? It's I used to think that iOS development was way more difficult, especially when you come into the native stuff. You've got because when it was Objective-C. Swift is a lot closer. Swift is a way easier to understand. However, even using a cross-platform framework like Xamarin, or I was using Corona, Ionic, any of React Native. When you come to the iOS side of things, first of all, you should test on a device, and you have the whole signing thing, right? So you have to generate your developer certificate, which is basically to your machine. And usually I'll just generate one, export it so I can share it with other developers rather than, because you only get 2 per account. And then you create your identifier for the application. So that, and then you generate your provisioning profile, which lasts up to a year, depending on the profile. I think if it's a push notification, I think it lasts for 2 years, if I remember correctly. So you have that. So then you have to sign it with that, and you have different types of so it's all that kind of stuff, being able to upload it to the store. With Android, it's a lot easier. It's just you have to just sign the APK, upload it, using normal upload methods. And with the iOS, you have to use either the application loader or you use the Xcode archive uploader. Is it the organizer? Organizer, I think it's called. But Ravi Sharma, you are killing it. Yeah, I know. 2 million downloads. That sounds awesome. Yeah, I think Ravi, if you could get your stuff over onto iOS, it might definitely be worthwhile. Hardest thing about iOS development is not throwing the Mac with Xcode in the trash. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I've been using the Mac now since 2013, so I've kind of gotten used to it. But yeah, when I first started, it just didn't make any sense. First up, if you need help, let me know. Thanks. Swift is a very nice language, though. Yeah, I think Swift. And Swift seems to be the language that people are using now. I've got a bunch of legacy stuff that's in Objective-C, and it's just, I hate working with that. Zero Supremacy. I made a game last weekend during a game jam. Fantastic. Did you release it? It's funny how so I went to a game jam. Again, I didn't. It was mainly I brought my kids. They were still. Was it when they were 12 and 14 or something like. But they were like, I brought them to a game jam, and I was just sort of just didn't do anything, and they did their game, which was kind of it was kind of cool. But it's amazing how much stuff gets done in those compressed amounts of time with game jams. Cornflux says, my Flutter Dart file has a bunch of classes, mostly because the Flutter framework itself treats files more like topics. Yeah, but these classes are not used outside the file. Oh yeah, I think that's yeah, you have that scope thing. What I don't like, so yeah, okay, this is another thing. One class per file. However, sometimes, and again, this is where like my own logic, and I kind of know, like if I have, here's like a common example for me where I have like again, the data access assessor, and it just basically it just returns the response object. But sometimes I want to return the response object and like an is successful thing. That way I could do all my checking at the at that level. So then I need to have like another object that it returns, so I could add more properties to it. And in that situation, I don't usually add like another model. I'll just put like the class inside that class file, just because it was like, oh, I hate creating a class for everything, which is one of the things I like about JavaScript as a dynamic language, is that you could just add properties to an object without having to like, redo the object or inherit the object or anything like that, and declare everything in the beforehand. For Dart, these classes are not used outside the file. Oh, cool. App 404, hello. Hey, how's it going? Neural algorithmic. How's it going, Eric? I'm doing all right, thanks. Fitz007, you will never appreciate the usefulness of a spare tire until you get a flat one. Yeah, you never appreciate those backups until you until you actually have a hard drive failure, or like checking your Git stuff like on a regular basis. Because I did the thing today where I was like, okay, this class is a so I've got this Flutter widget, which is a stateful widget. I don't think it should be a stateful widget. I think it should be a stateless widget. I'm just going to make all these changes, and I'm just going to go, and then I ended up spending like half an hour changing it from a stateful widget to a stateless widget, and then realizing that I thought it would be like every time I hit a page, it would just make this, because it was making an API call. It was like every time I made a change in the dropdown, basically every time the state, so it was a stateful widget inheriting or using a stateless widget. And every time I would change anything in it, like just change a drop-down value, it was hitting that thing, just reloading it and just hitting that API. So then I thought, I'll just go back to the way I did. But no, I didn't check it into Git before, or I didn't even do a commit. I had to go Control-Z, 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 Control-Z until I reached the point where it was like, we're not going any further, right? But luckily at least on my JetBrains thing, I don't know if it's a JetBrains thing or a Mac thing, but I had like a local cache of the changes too, so I was able to go back like a few hours. But yeah, always check your stuff into Git. Ayush Pai, hey, how's it going? Doing good. I really like your profile picture too, looking smart. UK Bass, just blabbering on, haha, we know you're not. You ever thought of game development, Unity or such as for mobile? I think indie game devs are pushing some good products nowadays. I think the reason I haven't really gone so much into game development is because I'm not much of a gamer myself, right? I'm like, last time I played a game, like, okay, yeah, I probably could, like, I joke with my kids that, I get what you guys are doing. I played Pac-Man when I was a kid, right? So for me, like, like, I don't really play anything that's like current. Like, I think the last game I probably played, where I wasn't forced to play it, was probably Guitar Hero. Like, we're talking like 10 years ago, or Doom, like Doom in the 90s, or like X-Wing, whatever. Like, just, it wasn't even, and that was quite a while ago. So because I'm not such of a gamer, I think even doing stuff like that, then like I don't think I have a real good appreciation for it. Like if I was writing, like if I was a novelist, I think I should be well read. If I'm a gamer, I think I should be like should know how to play games. But also, you have to be. I imagine you have to be a point where you're not spending all your time playing games, so you can actually code games and do that kind of stuff. Um, so, but I will. But I have done some games which are like just memorization games, so like educational stuff because it's like flashcards or just hammering that information in and everything like that. But um, it I do like the idea of it because to me it seems like it's the kind of thing where it must be difficult to it must be difficult to work on it as a team, like to be able to say, this is too fast, it's too slow. And I would imagine it'd be almost like writing a novel where you're just sitting there working through your way through all the levels and everything like that. Let's see, I meant to write classes. Whoops. Well, what did I say? What was it? Cool. Okay. Visible said, yeah, adding a property to a JS object, talking about architecture and software engineering. Huh. Well, this is it because it's a dynamic language. I remember, I was working for somebody. He asked me, "What's I heard this term dynamic language. What is it?" I had to look it up. It's like something that's just is flexible. Now, the downside of having a dynamic language is that you can't compile. You can't compile it. You don't catch those things. Anyone who's ever done work in JavaScript knows that you have something you think is working, but maybe you have a typo in a variable name, right? And it won't know. It just create a new variable. Like it's not going to tell you. And I know that's why TypeScript is good and everything, but Morandir says, when I use Analyze APK in Android Studio, if I see classes with A, B, C, D, E, F name in the dex file, it means that it's successfully obfuscated, right? Just to be sure. I've never actually looked at the Analyze APK, but I'd imagine so. Let's see. Chris Bala. Hey, Chris, how's it going? What was your deciding factor / tipping point in going from doing all your development to outsourcing help? For me, it was I wanted to do the outsourcing to begin with. So I was doing a lot of actually my first application, Chris, was I did start doing it myself. And I sat there and I did like a lot of my clients do. Like they'll come to me and say, I started doing this, but I just realized they're just never going to get it done. Just don't have the time. So it was like, and by hiring somebody, it kind of forced me to sit down and think, what's this application going to do, and specify everything out because I was going to be paying somebody to do it, and I wanted to make sure they did it right. And again, I hired this company. They were really, really cheap, but they were also like the code is just, like it's not great. Like it did work. I've changed it a lot since then. Right, but like when I started, I thought I'll use PhoneGap. I was like, this is how long ago it was. This is like 2012. I thought so. I started doing something in PhoneGap. PhoneGap wasn't going to work. Then I started reading like on Android. I started thinking, I could do that, but I kind of start some stuff, but then not get very far because I had work. I had a lot of other stuff, and just when you do your own stuff and you don't have a deadline, you don't have it's just like I kept thinking of new ideas and thinking I could put this in there, and I never got to the point where I actually released anything. And then finally, when I decided to hire somebody, it became, now I'm spending my own money. Now we have to finish this thing. We have to put this thing live because I'm not just going to continue to spend money on creating this thing. We have to get it done, get it live. So for me, it kind of helped out a little bit to do the outsourcing, just at least to get to the point where we finish something. Now I've done a lot more since then where I have actually coded it and finished it myself and released it. But you have a lot more control if you code it yourself. So much more control, and you can make sure that it's done right. You can make sure that all those little things that you think are obvious, I don't know, like when you're testing. Like I know when I'm testing something, I know there's part of me that thinks, oh, but they haven't even considered this. Like if I if I delete an object out of a list and then I go back into the application, it's still in the list, unless I close the application open it up again because it's a state issue and they're not reloading. They're reloading the list once and whatever that view model, whatever it is, a view model or whatever the the loader of the list is only being called once, and it's not being called each time you hit that page or whatever. Those are little kind of things that you just think it's just annoying when you see other people do it, or yeah. So, but yeah. So, boy, I'm just really rambling today, aren't I? I feel like I'm just. You guys got to see Eric go off the rails tonight. Or someone's always working, or always comment on working a piece of code before completely sending it down the undo stack. Yes, yeah, I guess you could comment it as well. I do this thing. This is another thing that I do. We're talking about like if I start a function, a lot of times, like, because if I know that I'm going to lose the plot, and sometimes you'll do that, like, especially sometimes you're like coding because you got everything in your head, and you just get interrupted all the time, and there's other times where you're just like you're just going off on a stream, and you're just like, okay, get this done. Like sometimes if I create a function, I'll put everything that function is supposed to do like in the comments, where it's like first insert into the table, then retrieve this, and then whatever, then update the status on this other table, then whatever what I'm going to do, just so that if I get interrupted, like I'm not going to do that. So I'm not going to lose the plot. Blastilus says, what do you think on Apple 30% to 15% tax? I did a video about this yesterday, but I think it's great news. I think it's not great news for people who are making over $1 million on it, but on their applications. But I think it's great news, and you start to wonder whether or not well, I still think there's a lot of money being made from the App Store. There's lots of people out there who are making. A lot of you guys are making money from the App Store, right? It's not like, but I know it's very easy to read the headlines and say, well, all the top applications are making the most money. It's true. It's like, the most people are downloading the top downloaded applications, right? And but there's still enough out there where our applications can be found and we can make that revenue. And it does seem like a good incentive to get more developers in. Because I really think that if we have Google Play still charging 30% and Apple charging 15%, I mean, how long is that going to go on before Google lowers their commission? So, and I think it's kind of funny how they were like, I think they must have looked at it like, looking at all the developers who are making less than $1 million, like how much would they lose if they cut that in half? And it probably wasn't a whole lot. Let's see. Corefunk says, "Yo, Eric, how do you use Git? How are your branches structured? Are any pet peeves? I personally don't like when a project has 1,000 future branches. I prefer short-lived branches. Do you know? I'm not a fan of branches at all. I know we've developed with I usually have like two. It would be like a development and then the production one." Right, or unless, okay, no, it depends. Like if I'm reskinning an app, like I have some clients where we reskin it, their application several times, and I kind of stopped doing that because of the 4.3. But like I had like one client where it was just like reskinning their reskinning their application for different trade show events, and so it was like that was a perfect thing for branching to me, just to have like different branches going forward, or actually we have another one where it was just staging and production. I'd have the different branches just so the config stuff could be shared. So because I had the config like kind of intermingled with it, so that worked out pretty well. But yeah, for me, my pet peeves on Git, my biggest pet peeve is that when developers don't check back into Git, right? This is probably the biggest thing, and this is like standard, right? This happens all the time where I give. I bring on a developer, I hire them, or I hire the developer, I give them access to Git, and then they make all the work, and they go, here you go, and I go, check it in because it's the project's done, you've been paid. Check in the code, and they're like, and then they'll send me something else saying they'll create a different Git repository. This happens all the time. For whatever reason, they had a merge conflict, and they didn't work it through. They just thought, I'll just create a different one, and they'll give me another Git repository. So there's some projects I have where I have multiple Git repositories, and I don't want that. I want one Git repository, right? They're you're a Google search away from figuring out whatever your merge differences were, or they'll send me a zip file, and I was like, no, I need to see, the whole thing about Git is to be able to see those commits and see, what work has actually been done, so that if I need to go back through, like if there's a bug and they say, I'm sure this worked before, I should be able to go back through and see what's changed since that happened and whether or not it actually did work before. And that's something that, especially with, I would say junior developers, very new developers, or even seasoned developers who are just not disciplined, the fact that they don't check things back into source code control really, really bothers me. And the other thing is if they don't check the whole thing in. Like, this is one of the things, so when you get to the check it in, and I wish I did this every time, but I don't. Like, I'll go through and I'll go, okay, let me run it. Oh, we're missing a file. So you forgot to add this to the Git repository before you committed and pushed this in. So we're missing whatever, some class file or something, because it's not compiling. Which is why continuous integration is good. But again, I don't do continuous integration as much as I should. I just put everything in a map just to get around the whole typing thing. Educate TVs. Hey, how's it going? UK Baz says there's a game called Among Us. Oh God, I've heard so much about this game. Created by four devs, absolutely smashing it. Easy, fun game, like Cluedo, Clue in the USA. It's an inspirational story of how they made the game and how well they're doing now. I've heard about this game. This is how big it is. If I've heard about it, it's got to be huge, because my kids keep trying to get me to play it. And they said the same thing as like Cluedo. We had a birthday party this week, social distance birthday parties over Zoom. It was like, hey, Dad, let's play Among Us. I'm like, but I haven't played it, but let's see. But yeah, I heard a lot about it. Shiny object syndrome. Keep starting projects and never finish them. Dude, yeah. The one plus of doing the shiny object syndrome, or like starting projects and never finish, a lot of times you'll go onto like I've taken on contracts and I know how something works, even though I've never actually finished it, but like I've been playing around with code that does it. But usually when I start a project, my intention is to finish it, but I don't always. Chris says, thanks for the honest and detailed answer. It helps immensely. Well, I don't know if it does, but so Chris, to be honest with you, with outsourcing, and like I've talked to lots of people who they it's funny because when somebody hears like my model, or my original model, which was, we'll have a UK company, we'll take on clients, and then we'll have offshore developers do everything. It sounds easy. It sounds like I'm just a middleman and nothing else has to be done. It just does not work that easily, right? That was how everything should have worked. Everything should have been like, I'll just find a really good developer, I'll give that to them, and then they work on it. But a lot of times it's so much more meetings and pushing things through and making sure things are done well. Like sometimes you'll hire a development company and they seem really good, and then they'll do the bait and switch on you where they give it to a really, really junior developer who just, does everything, wrong. You give them the coding standards and then you check and they're not following the coding standards. Maybe they didn't even read it, right? You give like detailed documentation and they may not have actually, read that documentation. But most of the time one of the things that, one of the big things I talked about was stress. I talked earlier this week about stress and everything. And the stress of it is when you're working with someone who's really, really trying hard, but they're just not getting it. And you're just, and you also don't have because they're not working directly for you. They're working for the company that they work for. So you can't just sit there. Let me explain it to you. Because then, they start going, well, this is scope creep. So no, it's not. This is doing it correctly. This is documented. And it can be a bit complicated. I don't mean to be negative. I'm not trying to be negative. Cordfunk says, if you create an app and the app requires some sort of understanding of specialized domain, it will probably be hard to outsource. Yeah, I think it's anytime that it's kind of like if you've ever tried to give, again, delegation is something that every business person should be able to do, and I am terrible at it, right? It's because you have to be able to make sure that everything is clear. Communication is key. Make sure that everything is documented well. And then so you put everything in a document. And then when you have the downside is if you have somebody who says, okay, no, I get it. And they don't have a clue, or they agree to the project when they don't even understand the true scope of the project. then you just end up with problems going forward. But yeah. Rohit says, "Hey Eric, hey Rohit, do you think there will be any changes to eCPM rates now that more people would want to make iOS apps because of the reduced commission?" I don't know. I think, well, and I said the other day, I think in general, I think eCPM rates are going to continue to fall. We've got a lot of people just going straight in to do the apps. And I think we're getting to the point where, iOS is making the IDFA, whatever, you have to approve the IDFA permissions and everything like that, which is going to be coming soon. I think it was going to come in iOS 14, but isn't yet. You've got all kinds of stuff in terms of advertising where, the tide is starting to turn on that kind of stuff. Sometimes I think it is scary how much we rely on advertising in terms of everything that we do, not just as software developers, but at the news market. I mean, a lot of the problems we're having with the news outlets is that they're all advertising driven, so they're all racing for clicks, and they're planting the cookies, and they're following you around, and they're doing all kinds of stuff. And it's almost like, if everything is free and runs off advertising, then who's going to be the one actually earning off the advertising at the end? Like, who's going to one actually be putting these ads out? And it's a strange ecosystem that it served me well. I think one of the things that I got an email today, somebody just said, "Dear sir, will you help me create an AdMob self-clicking app?" I'm like, I just deleted it. I was like, no, I think because I did the videos where I talked about my AdMob revenue, and I get so many questions about AdMob, and I think that it's starting to go. I think you have to start leaning more towards in-app purchases and subscriptions, and in order to get an in-app purchase, we have to produce something that is worth paying for, and that means it's going to take more work and more. We can't just produce these rubbish apps anymore. We have to do something that's good, which I think will be good going forward. But I think a lot of people will fall out of the app market. So, but I don't think the eCPM rates will go up. I think, based on all the competition we have out there, I think they'll end up going down. We got too many placements out there. I mean, the law of supply and demand. I mean, how many apps do we have out there that are that are actually serving up these ads? It's like a doctor going to see another doctor. I think I forgot what we were talking about when we said that. Let's see. Oh yeah, Chris says, "I'm just swamped with client work that my pet projects are lagging." Yeah, I feel the same way. Like, so true. I think it'd be better off finding other admins work to outsource so I could spend more time coding, creating. Yeah, I can't. But Chris, I kind of get what you're saying there. You also need to sell your skills. If you're gonna have to decide whether or not you're the one to be doing it. I think, and I'm kind of the same. I'm kind of the same too. There's so much time where I want to sit down and do my own stuff, but if I do that, then I have to take time away from client work, which is actually paying me to work on something which might work in the long run. So, I think that it should have a license to practice. I think we should have a license to practice software development to help identify good devs from bad ones. I don't know. That's not going to be a very popular opinion. I don't know. I think, okay. Yeah, maybe if you're going to be hired to do software development for somebody else, but you should still be able to do it. But by the same token, maybe you should have a license to be a chef or a license to be a mechanic. Do you have to have a license to be a mechanic? Merge conflicts are the main reason for my dislike of so many branches. When you have 200 branches, it's difficult to refactor your project, which I do quite a lot. I've worked with a client where they had, this is in Subversion, and I was brought in to consult. This was years ago, and it was before Git was really a thing. It may have been a thing, but it wasn't widely used. Subversion was the thing. And so I showed them how to use it, and they just went through and they branched like crazy on this thing to where it was like, yeah, it was like hundreds of branches, and it was crazy. Shungo Walker says, sorry, Eric, missed your response to my question. Is blogging a great way to advertise your app? Oh, I didn't see that question. Did that not come through? Yeah, I think it is. I mean, yeah, blogging or making videos, stuff like that. Yeah, definitely. I mean, whatever you could do to reach out and get people. If you so writing a blog. So if you write a blog about your app, you can also link that blog back to the Play Store page or the App Store page. Although Play Store, I would go Play Store page just for the backlinks. That way, and you would have like more keywords out there. So if somebody's searching Google for it, they might find all of those references you made to your application, and also anything else you could do. There's only so much you could put in the Google Play description, so you can put a lot more in your blog post. So let's say your app is a game. Let's say it's a Flappy Bird game. Again, I'm not much of a gamer, so all right, let's say it's Among Us. Let's say your app is Among Us, although it's like nobody knows about it. Let's say it's not the huge runaway hit, but it is. Like, you could write articles about the genre. You could write articles about about how you came up with the idea. You could write articles about some blog posts about some of the testimonials you have. Again, like if you ever look at our Instagram, I don't know if we're doing it anymore, but for the longest time, every time we get a good review, that becomes an Instagram quote. So it's just like, it's like a free, like somebody else has said, great app or whatever they do. And I don't actually do it, but Rowena on my team will take that and create an Instagram quote image for it. So that goes on Instagram. We might put it in other places, but it's kind of like, it's like all this content it's just putting stuff out there so it could be found in other ways. But yeah, I think it would help. Cord Funk says, I mean, naming things is just so difficult, and I personally never get it right the first time. In terms of merge conflicts. Oh yeah. Anyone built or building apps for the car industry? I know Ford's App Store is quietly growing in popularity. Unsure about other car manufacturers, but lots have their own app stores. No, I haven't. I've done an app for a couple apps for the car industry, but they were all mobile phone apps. They weren't like Android Auto or Apple. What is it? Was it Apple one? Apple is Android Auto or Apple? I don't know. I've had it, but yeah, I've never done any apps like that. See, terrible idea. Okay, so Corflex says, for example, DHH and Alcobob. DHH is Daryl Hanselheimer. He's really smart. The guy who did Ruby on Rails. And Uncle Bob are both God devs, but very different philosophies. It's true. Who decides what's good? Depends on the context, I guess. But even in the same context, that's true. For the doctor thing, when you, as a developer, give your project to another developer. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's, but I think I think from a business point of view, the thing that bothers me the most is that if I insist on doing all the code myself, and sometimes I do, then I'm not a business person. I'm just a developer, right? The business will never grow. It'll never become more than just me. And so I've been trying very hard over the last several years to build up the company, even hiring people, even like building up bigger offices and all this kind of stuff. And it just sometimes you're still the driving force behind it, and it can get a bit depressing. Erdem says, Eric, this video production is not so easy. Sure it is. It's simple. Erdem, I've been seeing you getting a lot of views on your channel. I've been looking at that. So I think or one of the things I think is when it comes to YouTube, like as a money earner, I know some people are able to do it. I've been to, like because of when the channel was growing really quickly, I got invited to all these YouTube events with people were like the people with more than only for people with more than 10,000 subscribers or something like that. And, and so you got to see people I got to meet people who had like hundreds of thousands of subscribers. And it was like, and some of them could really make it work, but they weren't making a whole lot of revenue from it. They were constantly on the treadmill of what can I do? Like, what's the next trend? What can I do a video about? What can I do this? And, for me, doing videos has been, there are times where like I've never thought of it as like a revenue earner. Like, even like the t-shirts underneath, nobody ever buys those. The ad revenue, it's like that I make from it is about 250 pounds a month. We do get new clients from it from time to time, but sometimes it's just so busy, can't even take them on. But there's also something just very fun about doing it. There's something that's just, it keeps you sharp and it keeps you relevant, and, of having, just knowing what you're talking about. And sometimes it's just, like when I was doing it every day, it just became a way of life. And if I go too long without doing one at all, then I really feel like just a turd. Like I'm just, whatever. So, so I know the last few weeks I've done like maybe one, like every couple weeks, and then this week I did 3. So I've not been consistent lately. I've just been, but it's also not something that I'm, I enjoy the process of making something. And I think this is what I like about app development. I like the process of actually creating something that didn't exist before. And the nice thing about videos is I could do that on a daily basis. Now, sometimes it might suck. Sometimes it might not be very helpful for anybody, sometimes whatever. But I think as a software developer, it's nice to be able to share the information that we have. You guys all share it with me. I think more of you guys should consider doing videos. If you ever thought about doing it, it's difficult, it's hard, but it's hard for everybody. Nezi777, it says, is it possible to protect your app from being plagiarized? I don't. What you could do on Google Play, and I've done this before, is I've reported them if I think that they've copied my app completely. So you're talking about something like where they just look at yours and do something exactly the same, like they're reskinning it. I think it's possible, but it's very difficult. Like legally, I think it'll be very difficult. But at least if you report to Google Play saying, they're using, I report to Google Play, but I have to say, like, they're actually using my same description. They're using my icon. One time they were using my icon. They're using my screenshots. Like, there's something very, very sleazy about a lot of the developers out there. Again, maybe, it is because it's such a low barrier to entry getting onto the App Store. If you have something that's working, there's going to be a lot of people who are trying to release the same thing in the hopes that they could, steal your thunder, I think. Fitzgerald says that licenses are mandatory when people's lives are on the scene. Software development doesn't directly endanger people's lives, right? Tesla, Autopilot, anyone? We created 500 raw videos, 20 uploaded ones. We decided to create one master channel and many sub-channels to test where we could have a solution problem fit. Ever thought about multiple channels? No, not really. I think we did think about doing one channel, which was just like a marketing channel. Like we got to the point where we started getting like more views on this channel, and then I think we put out a new Ear Spy promo video, just like for the Google Play, the Play Store, and it got loads of thumbs down. Like everyone was mad that it came up in their feeds. They subscribed, and then they got this Ear Spy video, which was just like different than all the others. So we did think about doing another one for that, but I think it's just keep the one we have. I think it's yeah. But no, I haven't thought about doing multiple channels. In fact, and there's one thing. So since I started doing this channel, I've done over 1,000 videos, maybe 1,200 or something. I have to find out. But been doing them since 2014, I think, when I started doing it, and so I've done over 1,000. And one thing, people are always telling me, you know, oh, you're off topic, or you shouldn't be talking about this, or you need to do more videos like this, or you'll get more views if you do this. You'll get more views, and it's like, and in the end, it's are you doing it for, it's kind of this is my channel. This is where if I want to do one to say how to gardening tips or my macho alpha male tips or whatever, I'll do it. Right? It just it kind of bothers me. And I think a lot of people, I mean, it's one of those things where you're trying to do something and everybody is trying to give you advice on how to do it better, but ultimately it's down to you to do it. And so when it comes to the consistency of the channel too, it's one of those things I've been thinking about lately is like I might talk about a book I read on one day and on another day talk about something app related, on another day talk about something else related, but it's not so much, and then, sometimes people will get angry and they'll leave bad comments, but, I don't really see the point in doing multiple channels unless I do something that's completely different. Like I think everything is in the wheelhouse of Overpass as a business, as in terms of this is something business related, this is something client work related, this is something app store related. So I don't usually go too far from that. Like I wouldn't do one on cooking tips, but I also don't think it's I don't know, to do it for fun. Apple Car. How did I not know Apple Car? It's just so simple. Thanks for that. My guess. Rohit says, if I have 3 to 4 different iOS dev accounts that I have published apps, and if I make all below $1 million, but make over $1 million combined, will it still be qualified for reduced commission? I don't know. I mean, would they know that you have those 3 or 4 different iOS dev accounts? This is not a place for millionaires, Rohit. Go away. Come on. I hope you guys all become millionaires, but mostly me. CarPlay. Is it CarPlay, isn't it? It's not Apple Car. Apple CarPlay. That makes sense. Thanks, Anil. Rohit, I'm not a millionaire. I just wanted to know what will happen in this case. I was going to make a video on this because I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I read a book by, obviously, I read this weightlifting. One of the book when I started lifting weights about 4 or 5 years ago, because I read a book called Bigger, Leaner, Stronger by Michael Matthews, and that's kind of what I stuck to ever since then. Right, but I think it was in his book, one of his books, or maybe it was another one, but they talked about how a lot of personal trainers, when they get people come to them, one of the things people will say is, "Yeah, the thing is, I don't want to get too big," and they always they laugh at them as if that's gonna happen. So like somebody who's just getting started in weightlifting, they're talking yeah, I don't want to get too big, right? And a lot of times when we get when we go into the app market, we're like, yeah, if this is going to be too successful, we start looking at server costs as if I get 1 million downloads immediately, what am I going to do? Not realizing that would be such a good problem to have. Like you would just, if you all of a sudden your app completely took off, but you still need to think of scalability and stuff like that. But that's why we talk about being a millionaire. It's for right now, I'm not worried about that. Like if I became a millionaire and Apple wanted to take 30%, right now that doesn't seem like it'd be a huge issue to me. This is sure an ethical. This is for sure an ethical responsibility. If your code touches the real world, has a real impact, you'd better have some tests in place. Oh yeah, that was a lot of times the big. In the news here that we're talking about the NHS COVID app, which for some reason has a blue screen on it. Let me see if I can find it. I don't know if they fixed it, but oh yeah, it looks like they fixed it. But they had a for a week they just had a blue screen, just the startup screen, the splash screen, and some people were uninstalling it and reinstalling it, but of course it's anonymous, so they would lose all their data. So it was kind of this big high profile application. I don't know what the problem was, but looks like they released a fix for it. But yeah, those kind of things definitely. I hope they have lots of testing. Sheepdog says, Eric, how do you feel about people whose name is Eric with a K? I don't mind them. I don't know. I've said this before. I've never been a big fan of the name Eric. If your name is Eric, I apologize, but for me, I think it's I just always thought probably everybody thinks other people's names sound cooler than theirs, but The mute telling a deaf to tell the blind where to look. Seems like pizza time. It does seem like pizza time. Have a nice weekend, everyone. I'm Fizz007. I appreciate you keeping track of the time and everything. Everybody, thanks for hitting the like button. We've had 4 likes this session. Woohoo! That's a new low, but that's fine. It's been a nice, fun live stream today. I said it last week, and I'm gonna do it. Maybe we'll do it next week. I want to move the live streams to Mondays. There's lots of things going on. Like next weekend, it's gonna be Thanksgiving weekend. Although I'm in England and it's lockdown, so I don't know if that's gonna make that much of a difference. But I am gonna move it from Fridays to another day. It'll probably be Mondays. Just to there's so much else going on Fridays that we need to do it. So, and Data Whisperer says, when you start to use "isn't it" so much, it's a sign. It shows that you're becoming British. Good vibes. It's addictive. Eric and Eric both inherit from an abstract superclass Eris. Nice. That's the best nerd joke I heard all week. All right. Hey guys, have a fantastic weekend. Have a great week ahead. I'm gonna try to get some more videos done next week. Hopefully, get some momentum going. I really appreciate guys tuning into the live stream, and we're gonna move it to another day. Hopefully that you guys can still follow to the new day, whichever day that's gonna be. And we'll talk to you next time. Have a good weekend. Bye.